Now, so far, we have talked about the three pillars of web design: color theory, typography, user interface design, and now I want to talk about the last pillar, which is user experience design. Now, a lot of people often get confused about what exactly is UX or user experience, and one of the best way I have explained it is through the story of the renovation of a college. So this is a picture of Reed College in the US according to my research, and let's just use it as our imaginary backdrop. So this college decided that it needed to undergo serious renovation, tearing down the buildings, building new ones, and completely reform the campus. So they invited this well-known architect who is very respected in his field. He came and he did a great job with all the buildings, and the provost was really happy, and he was like, this looks great, but he had one question. Hey, Mr. Architect, it seems like you have just left lawn across the entire campus. Where are all the parts that people are going to walk on to get between the buildings? At this point, the architect says, don't worry, I will come back in a year and all will be reviewed. So in a year, the part where people need to naturally walk becomes trotted down and the grass gets worn down, revealing those parts that people need. And it's at this point when the architect actually lays down all the tiles and paves these parts. So this is the kind of the difference between user experience and design. Design, we often think of having an artistic, what we think looks good, and enforcing that on the user. Now, user experience is meant to be invisible. If you have a good experience with a website, it's meant to be unobtrusive, and it just lets you do your thing, and it feels like as if everything is easy and everything is effortless. So this is what we are aiming for, and in order to do that, we have to think about, again, 5 things. The first is simplicity. Keeping these things simple is always better than making it more complex or more cluttered. So this is a website called Sina, and it's one of the biggest news websites in China. Now, every time I looked at it, though, I get an headache because it's just so dense. There are so many links and my brain gets overwhelmed, and I say nope, can't do it. So take a look at this alternative. This is Monaco, which is also a news website, but look at how they have managed to chop up the content, provide some interest for the eyes. There's a little bit of dialogue, some images, some videos, a little bit of text. It's never overwhelming, and with that consistent color scheme and typography, it's really delightful to actually read rather than this experience of sort of hurting your eyes with design. This is a much nicer user experience because it's simple. So whatever you are having to choose, should I make it more complex or should I make it more simple, always try to pare it down. The second point is consistency. Keep your designs consistent, but also keep the functionalities of your product consistent. Here's an example. This is a web page for Xfinity. Xfinity is a really big communications company in the US, and they are responsible for various things like providing TV and providing internet. Here are 3 screenshots from various parts of their website. One is their home page, the second is their TV offerings, and the last one is their news site. And if you take a look at the top navigation bar, not only do you see they have changed up the design of the navigation bar between the different parts of their website, they also made it work a little bit differently. The buttons are not all the same place, the search bar moves around, and that inconsistency means that a user is going to be confused when they go from one part of the website. If you think about the target audience of this company Xfinity, a lot of them are going to be a little and having this inconsistent functionality and inconsistent design will really make this user have a bad experience with this website. Now, the next thing to think about when you are designing your website is to take into account people's reading pattern. They have looked at how human eyes track a web page and which parts they look at when they are browsing. And one of the most common reading pattern is what's called the F pattern, where the eye starts at the top left of the corner and then it tracks the right and then it flips back again, browsing down the left gutter. So you have often things like bullet points or pictures or icons, button, they are all on the left. So you can design for this by using the F layout. So you have the most different parts of your content on the left gutter, have the logo at the top and have everything follow this pattern. For example, like this website for big commerce, see how the eyes is being naturally accommodated going from left to right. Now, another really common pattern for reading is the Z pattern, where our eyes go from left to right and then zigzagging down all the way the website. Now, this of course depends on the type of website. So you have something that's more sparse with more video content, or if somebody's trying to browse a website a little bit faster, you see them using this layout, and this layout is used pretty famously in the Facebook website, using that Z pattern to accommodate for people's natural reading pattern. So have a think about this, have a think about how people naturally look at the page and place your content in that pattern to make it easier for people who are using your website. Now, in today's age and day, it's really important to think about all platform design. It's not enough anymore to just design a website that is meant to go into a desktop computer. Instead, you have to think about mobile as well. So having a website that scales up nicely onto mobile, what we call mobile responsive, is really important. You don't want a big website that's designed to take up a landscape kind of screen to be crammed into a phone that's actually like a portrait shape. This looks really bad. It's very hard to read the individual links, and more often than not, my fingers are actually too big to tap onto the length that I want. So this is a really bad user experience. Now, this can happen the opposite way as well. So a design that looks much better on mobile, but then when it's rendered on a desktop with a wide kind of screen, it does not use up enough of the screen real estate. For example, this is the Facebook latest redesign of their website, and you have got all this empty space that's not being used at all, and everything is crammed into the middle. This is not very efficient. So have a think about how you are using and the available space, and make sure that your website rearranges itself when it's being rendered on a portrait smaller screen versus a larger desktop screen. And try to avoid one of my pet peeves in terms of design, which is having so many banners on your website that shows up on the mobile version that your content becomes impossibly small, and then when you are scrolling, it's like you are scrolling it on an Apple Watch or something, whereas all of this area content is taken up by warnings and banner and cookies, and it's just not a good user experience. But on the other hand, don't go crazy either. Don't make your entire website just one part, like a picture or a piece of text scaling it up massively. Like this is also very, very awkward, because then I have to just keep scrolling until forever before I can actually read and take it in all of the content. So strike a happy medium, and most importantly, test. Give it to other users. You can employ professional tester to test and try out your website and give you feedback. Now, if you can't afford that, just use your family and friends and just make something up for them. You can take them shopping or buy them stuffs, so they can give you feedback on how you can improve the design. Now, finally, you have talked a lot about user experience and how to get people to have a good time. Now, some designers though use the knowledge they have about human psychology and user interface and user experience design to do bad things. And in the design world, we call these dark patterns. So patterns which get a user to perform an actions or behavior that is beneficial to the company or the designer, but is not necessarily what the user wants. And this is what I would say in another form of the bad user experience. So let me give you some example. This is a real life example. Let's say that you walk into Waitrose, which is a big supermarket, and you brought yourself a sandwich. Now, when you look at it at this point, when you are buying it, it looks like this sandwich is going to be full length from edge to edge, right? But then when you rip open the packaging and you are disappointed when you find the actually that in the middle it's just air and the sandwich turns out to be a lot smaller than you initially thought. It's worst feeling in the world. This is a feeling that I can't stand. Even my food suddenly gets reduced in size. It's like as if somebody came along and took food out of my plate. In the digital world, people do the same thing, the same kind of trickery that's meant to get you to perform an action that you don't necessarily want, and you end up feeling really disappointed and really upset with. And this is truly a dog pattern, because it's just tricking you to do something you don't want to, whereas good design is about helping people do what they want to do and giving them a good experience while they are at it. Now, the final example and probably one of the dog patterns I dislike the most is these checkboxes. You know, right below you filled in a form, you get these checkboxes, and sometimes the wording is so confusing that I really don't know what I'm signing up for. Like this one: if you would like us to no longer continue to stop not sending you special deals and offer every week, please indicate you are inclined to yes. But checking the box, I have no idea what I'm thinking and clicking, but at the same time I really just don't know. I might click it, I might not. I don't know what it does, but it's horribly confusing and it's not a good user experience at all. I will bet you that after I sign up, I am never going to come back to this website again. Are you with me now? We have seen what good websites look like. We have seen what bad websites look like. We have seen what evil websites look like, but it's time to put our knowledge to the test by designing our own website from scratch and applying these 4 pillars of the web design to this project. So have a think about what you have learned so far and head over to the next lesson.